Hello and welcome to the Word Made Flesh.
This is our weekly review of the upcoming Sunday, the Word of God, and how to incorporate it into our daily lives.
Back to ordinary time.
Yeah.
Christmas season has flown by.
Every time we talk about ordinary time, I'm just like, we do such a disservice in the English language to call it just ordinary time.
It is. I know we've talked about this before, but I think we have to talk about it every single time. That ordinary time does not mean meh.
Meh.
Meh. Ordinary time means the ordinal counting of weeks. First, second, third. So it's the ordering of weeks. So in English, we call it ordinary time because we're not very creative, apparently. Yeah. In Latin, it's just called tempus per annum, the time of the year.
Much better.
It's just the Sundays of the year, basically. So we're just going to count the Sundays of the year. So this Sunday, we begin with the second Sunday of ordinary time.
Yep.
Because the baptism of the Lord took the place of the first Sunday in ordinary time.
Yep, so we missed out on the first one.
Yeah, the first week happened.
Yes, the first week.
The first Sunday just happens to be baptism. And then now we are in the second Sunday of ordinary time. So everything will be back to green, the color of life and hope and growth. So we will be back to where we left off before Advent. Except we're starting over.
We're starting over.
We're into the Gospel of Luke, but not yet. Before we get to Luke's Gospel, we're going to have one more hit at John's Gospel.
Yes.
To kind of wrap everything up. But let's start back in the Old Testament. Jonathan.
Isaiah.
The prophet.
Yes.
This reading, some of you, depending on which Christmas Mass you went to, you will have heard this reading at one of the Christmas Masses. What's going on in this reading?
So, it's time after the Babylonian exile.
Okay, a major thing that happened
yes.
in Israel's history.
The prophet is prophesying about how you are the Lord's treasured people, and that people will see you as that now. There's so many years of hardship and just tumultuous nature of everything, but that now God is going to shine His light on you, and that He delights in you, and you will feel that, and people will know that.
Absolutely. And I think, spoiler alert, the theme that's going to be wrapped around this weekend is the wedding of Cana. This is what the gospel is going to be about. And so when you look at this first reading, there is a lot of nuptial imagery.
For sure.
That your builder is going to embrace you and make you his spouse, and that it's the coming together, essentially, of God and humanity. That God is making you his spouse. And that's like, wow. Not just even his favorite people, but you are one with God. One with God. And so the coming out of the exile, forming your people, this establishment, building a home, all of this is very nuptial imagery. For sure. So the psalm bespeaks that. Our psalm response?
Proclaim His marvelous deeds to all the nations.
So Israel rejoice. Israel is rejoicing, and sing a new song to the Lord, I believe, is the first words of this that you're going to hear in the Psalms as the verses. And it almost is a regenerative, like this is a new day, sing a new song, that the old is past, a new chapter has begun, a new life. So all of this joy of being, again, it's the wedding feast.
It is.
It's a time of joy and celebration. We're in the reception.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of celebration there. And the makeup of St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians. And Paul's first letter to the Corinthians gets a little chastising. We don't necessarily hear that from here, but Paul writes to the Corinthians, and much of what he says is corrective in nature. Mm-hmm. Now, today's reading that you're going to hear is a big listing of the charisms.
Right.
That in the Lord, there's this Spirit, this one Spirit that is doing all of these different things. And Paul is really trying to keep the people from dividing among themselves, like who's got the greatest gifts and what are the greatest gifts, and
because all these gifts are manifesting within
Yes.
the people.
Yeah.
And our human nature is like, well, I've got the gift of prophecy and I can speak in tongues and I can do all these things. And it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There is one spirit that is living amongst all of you, and it is manifesting itself in different ways, but it's not any greater because it's that one spirit fully in each of you.
Absolutely.
And so it said, stop your bickering. You're all the same. Slap, slap, slap. Get it together, people.
There are several things that Paul points out that are common. That all of these things come from God.
Yes.
So they are gifts. None of you can claim them for your own. Secondly, they are all meant to be of service to the community. They're not for you, they're for the community at large. And thirdly, that this is the work of God, and though you might be manifesting it, it's really God who is doing the work. So again, it's how does the Spirit manifest themselves in the body?
Yeah.
All right, now we're at the gospel.
Now the gospel. The wedding feast.
I've heard that before. If you were paying attention, you knew the wedding feast was coming up. This is the wedding feast of Cana. Only John's gospel proclaims this miracle. And it sets us at the beginning of Jesus' ministry.
Right.
So we know that Mary is invited to the wedding feast, and Jesus and the disciples were also there. And I love this gospel. I love it. It's so rich in its description. I mean, you could talk about the 6 jugs of water. You could talk about the servants. You could talk about the way the miracle happens. You could talk about the relationship between Mary and Jesus. You could talk about the beginning of Jesus' ministry, how the disciples came to... I mean, it just...
There's a lot there.
There's a lot. And I don't know how I'm going to keep that homily to 10 to 12 minutes as, one generally shoots for. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. What's your favorite part of this gospel? I mean, what stands out to you?
Gracious.
This is dead time.
This is
Jonathan,
dead time.
come on. What's your favorite part?
I think it's Mary's role.
Why?
She is such a force in our church, and is such a guide that even at this age, Jesus is now 30 years old. Mm-hmm. He listens to his mother, and it's something. He's like, he kind of brushes it off, but then she turns around and tells the servants, "Do as he tells you." It's like, doesn't matter what you say. This is the time, and it's so pivotal. It's the most pivotal point in Jesus' life up to that point, because that's starting everything, and he follows his mother's guide. He uses his mom as a guide, and that it's what we can do still. We are called to do that still, and so I think that for me, I have a really special relationship with our mother, and so
excellent. It's John's gospel. I love that John's gospel is structured in 7 signs. So there are 7 miracles that John highlights across Jesus' ministry. And all of them are prelude to the real thing that Jesus comes to do. And so when Mary says to do this, Jesus' response is, "My hour has not yet come." His hour is going to be at the Last Supper. That's when the hour has come, and he will then do what he came to do. But all of these miracles that he will work throughout the course of John's gospel are all signs of what he is about to do. And this wedding feast, changing the water into wine, I mean, in some ways, this is Jesus's marriage to his people.
Yes.
That he is taking the church to be his bride. And, he begins the transformation of the water into wine, and the wine will become his blood down the road when it is all fulfilled. I mean, I just love the way John has woven this all together.
It's beautiful.
So I'm sure wherever you are, whoever you listen to the gospel, and something's going to prick your ear or touch your heart. What is it? What is Jesus saying to you? because there's so much in there that is rich and fulfilling.
Right. You asked me an impossible question.
But you answered it.
I did answer, and tomorrow it might be something completely different.
Yeah,
because it is so rich, like you said.
Every time I read this gospel, I like to use this gospel oftentimes at weddings. It almost seems too on the nose, but it's not, because it's so deep, and you can go in so many different directions with it. All right, well, second Sunday of Ordinary Time. We will see you in the green this Sunday.